Anarchism. From Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia. Jump to navigation, jump to search. Anarchist and anarchists redirect here. For other uses, see anarchists, disambiguation. Part of a series on anarchism. Circle A anarchy symbol. Schools of thought. Theory practice. People. Issues. History. Culture. Economics. By region. Lists. Related topics. Black flag symbol.svg anarchism portal. A colored voting box.svg politics portal. B. Part of the politics series. Basic forms of government. List of forms of government. Source of power. Power ideology. Power structure. A colored voting box.svg politics portal. B. Anarchism is a political philosophy and movement that is skeptical of authority and rejects all involuntary, coercive forms of hierarchy. Anarchism calls for the abolition of the state, which it holds to be undesirable, unnecessary, and harmful. As a historically left-wing movement, placed on the farthest left of the political spectrum, it is usually described alongside libertarian Marxism as the libertarian wing, libertarian socialism, of the socialist movement, and has a strong historical association with anti-capitalism and socialism. The history of anarchism goes back to prehistory, when humans lived in anarchic societies long before the establishment of formal states, realms, or empires. With the rise of organized hierarchical bodies, skepticism toward authority also rose, but it was not until the 19th century that a self-conscious political movement emerged. During the latter half of the 19th and the first decades of the 20th century, the anarchist movement flourished in most parts of the world and had a significant role in workers' struggles for emancipation. Various anarchist schools of thought formed during this period. Anarchists have taken part in several revolutions, most notably in the Spanish Civil War, whose end marked the end of the classical era of anarchism. In the last decades of the 20th and into the 21st century, the anarchist movement has been resurgent once more. Anarchism employs a diversity of tactics in order to meet its ideal ends, which can be broadly separated into revolutionary and evolutionary tactics. There is significant overlap between the two, which are merely descriptive. Revolutionary tactics aim to bring down authority and state, having taken a violent turn in the past, while evolutionary tactics aim to prefigure what an anarchist society would be like. Anarchist thought, criticism, and praxis have played a part in diverse areas of human society. Anarchism has been both defended and criticized. Criticism of anarchism include claims that it is internally inconsistent, violent, or utopian. Contents. 1. Etymology, terminology, and definition. 2. History. 2.1 Pre-modern era. 2.2 Modern era. 2.3 Post-war era. 3. Thought. 3.1 Classical. 3.2 Post-classical and contemporary. 4. Tactics. 4.1 Classical era tactics. 4.2 Revolutionary tactics. 4.3 Evolutionary tactics. 5 Key issues. 5.1 Gender, sexuality, and free love. 5.2 Anarchism and education. 5.3 Anarchism and the state. 5.4 Anarchism and the arts. 6 Analysis. 7 See also. 8 References. 8.1 Citations. 8.2 Notes. 8.3 Sources. 9 Further reading. 10 External links. Etymology, terminology, and definition. Main article, definition of anarchism and libertarianism. See also, Glossary of Anarchism. Wilhelm Weitling is an example of a writer who added to anarchist theory without using the exact term. 1. The etymological origin of anarchism is from the ancient Greek anarchia, meaning without a ruler, composed of the prefix an, without, and the word archos, leader or ruler. The suffix ism denotes the ideological current that favors anarchy. 2. Anarchism appears in English from 1642 as anarchisme and anarchy from 1539. Early English usages emphasized a sense of disorder. 3. Various factions within the French Revolution labeled their opponents as anarchists, although few such accused shared many views with later anarchists. Many revolutionaries of the 19th century such as William Godwin, 1756 to 1836, and Wilhelm Weitling, 1808 to 1871, would contribute to the anarchist doctrines of the next generation but did not use anarchist or anarchism in describing themselves or their beliefs. 4. The first political philosopher to call himself an anarchist, French, anarchist, was Pierre-Joseph Proudhon, 1809 to 1865, marking the formal birth of anarchism in the mid-19th century. Since the 1890s and beginning in France 5, libertarianism has often been used as a synonym for anarchism. 6. And its use as a synonym is still common outside the United States. 7. Some usages of libertarianism refers to individualistic free market philosophy only, and free market anarchism in particular is termed libertarian anarchism. 8. While the term libertarian has been largely synonymous with anarchism, 9. Its meaning has more recently diluted with wider adoption from ideologically disparate groups. 10. Including both the New Left and libertarian Marxists, who do not associate themselves with authoritarian socialists or a vanguard party, and extreme cultural liberals, who are primarily concerned with civil liberties. 10. Additionally, some anarchists use libertarian socialist 11 to avoid anarchism's negative connotations and emphasize its connections with socialism. 10. Anarchism is broadly used to describe the anti-authoritarian wing of the socialist movement. 12. NB1 Anarchism is contrasted to socialist forms which are state-oriented or from above. 17. Scholars of anarchism generally highlight anarchism's socialist credentials. 18. And criticize attempts at creating dichotomies between the two. 19. Some scholars describe anarchism as having many influences from liberalism. 10. And being both liberals and socialists but more so. 20. While most scholars reject anarcho-capitalism as a misunderstanding of anarchist principles. 21. NB2. While opposition to the state is central to anarchist thought, defining anarchism is not an easy task for scholars, as there is a lot of discussion among scholars and anarchists on the matter, and various currents perceive anarchism slightly differently. 23. NB3 major definitional elements include the will for a non-coercive society, the rejection of the state apparatus, the belief that human nature allows humans to exist in or progress towards such a non-coercive society, and a suggestion on how to act to pursue the ideal of anarchy. 26. History. Main article, History of Anarchism. Pre-modern era. Zeno of Citium, c. 334, c. 262 BC, whose republic inspired Peter Kropotkin. 27. During the prehistoric era of mankind, an established authority did not exist. It was after the creation of towns and cities that institutions of authority were established and anarchistic ideas espoused as a reaction. 28. The most notable precursors to anarchism in the ancient world were in China and Greece. In China, philosophical anarchism, the discussion on the legitimacy of the state, was delineated by Taoist philosophers Zhuangzhou and Laozi. 29. Alongside Stoicism, Taoism has been said to have had significant anticipations of anarchism. 30. Anarchic attitudes were also articulated by tragedians and philosophers in Greece. Aeschylus and Sophocles used the myth of Antigone to illustrate the conflict between rules set by the state and personal autonomy. Socrates questioned Athenian authorities constantly and insisted on the right of individual freedom of conscience. Cynics dismissed human law, nomos, and associated authorities while trying to live according to nature, physis. Stoics were supportive of a society based on unofficial and friendly relations among its citizens without the presence of a state. 31. During the Middle Ages, there was no anarchistic activity except some ascetic religious movements in the Muslim world or in Christian Europe. This kind of tradition later gave birth to religious anarchism. In the Sasanian Empire, Mazdak called for an egalitarian society and the abolition of monarchy, only to be soon executed by Emperor Kavadai. 32. In Basra, religious sects preached against the state. In Europe, various sects developed anti-state and libertarian tendencies. Libertarian ideas further emerged during the Renaissance with the spread of humanism, rationalism, and reasoning through Europe. Novelists fictionalized ideal societies that were based on voluntarism rather than coercion. The Age of Enlightenment further pushed towards anarchism with the optimism for social progress. 33. Modern Era. During the French Revolution, partisan groups such as the Enrages and the Sans-Culottes saw a turning point in the fermentation of anti-state and federalist sentiments. 34. The first anarchist currents developed throughout the 18th century as William Godwin espoused philosophical anarchism in England, morally delegitimizing the state. Max Stirner's thinking paved the way to individualism, and Pierre-Joseph Proudhon's theory of mutualism found fertile soil in France. 35. By the late 1870s, various anarchist schools of thought had become well-defined, and a wave of then unprecedented globalization occurred from 1880 to 1914. 36. This era of classical anarchism lasted until the end of the Spanish Civil War and is considered the golden age of anarchism. 35. Mikhail Bakunin opposed the Marxist aim of dictatorship of the proletariat and allied himself with the Federalists in the First International before his expulsion by the Marxists. Drawing from mutualism, Mikhail Bakunin founded collectivist anarchism and entered the International Workingmen's Association, a class worker union later known as the First International that formed in 1864 to unite diverse revolutionary currents. The International became a significant political force, with Karl Marx being a leading figure and a member of its General Council. Bakunin's faction, the Jura Federation, and Proudhon's followers, the Mutualists, opposed state socialism, advocating political abstentionism and small property holdings. 37. After bitter disputes, the Bakuninists were expelled from the International by the Marxists at the 1872 Hague Congress. 38. Anarchists were treated similarly in the Second International, being ultimately expelled in 1896. 39. Bakunin famously predicted that if revolutionaries gained power by Marx's terms, they would end up the new tyrants of workers. In response to their expulsion from the First International, anarchists formed the St. Imir International. Under the influence of Peter Kropotkin, a Russian philosopher and scientist, anarcho-communism overlapped with collectivism. 40. Anarcho-communists, who drew inspiration from the 1871 Paris Commune, advocated for free federation and for the distribution of goods according to one's needs. 41. At the turn of the century, anarchism had spread all over the world. 42. It was a notable feature of the international syndicalism movement. 43. In China, small groups of students supported the humanistic pro-science version of anarcho-communism. 44. Tokyo was a hotspot for rebellious youth from countries of the Far East, traveling to the Japanese capital to study. 45. In Latin America, Argentina was a stronghold for anarcho-syndicalism, where it became the most prominent left-wing ideology. 46. During this time, a minority of anarchists adopted tactics of revolutionary political violence. This strategy became known as propaganda of the deed. 47. The dismemberment of the French socialist movement into many groups and the execution and exile of many communards to penal colonies following the suppression of the Paris Commune favored individualist political expression and acts. 48. Even though many anarchists distanced themselves from these terrorist acts, infamy came upon the movement and attempts were made to exclude them from American immigration, including the Immigration Act of 1903, also called the Anarchist Exclusion Act. 49. Illegalism was another strategy which some anarchists adopted during this period. 50. Nestor Makhno seen with members of the Anarchist Revolutionary Insurrectionary Army of Ukraine. Despite concerns, anarchists enthusiastically participated in the Russian Revolution in opposition to the White Movement. However, they met harsh suppression after the Bolshevik government was stabilized. Several anarchists from Petrograd and Moscow fled to Ukraine, 51 notably, leading to the Kronstadt Rebellion and Nestor Makhno's struggle in the Free Territory. With the anarchists being crushed in Russia, two new antithetical currents emerged, namely platformism and synthesis anarchism. The former sought to create a coherent group that would push for revolution, while the latter were against anything that would resemble a political party. Seeing the victories of the Bolsheviks in the October Revolution and the resulting Russian Civil War, many workers and activists turned to communist parties, which grew at the expense of anarchism and other socialist movements. In France and the United States, members of major syndicalist movements such as the General Confederation of Labor and the Industrial Workers of the World left their organizations and joined the Communist International. 52. In the Spanish Civil War of 1936, anarchists and syndicalists, CNT and FAI, once again allied themselves with various currents of leftists. A long tradition of Spanish anarchism led to anarchists playing a pivotal role in the war. In response to the Army Rebellion, an anarchist-inspired movement of peasants and workers, supported by armed militias, took control of Barcelona and of large areas of rural Spain, where they collectivized the land. 53. The Soviet Union provided some limited assistance at the beginning of the war, but the result was a bitter fight among communists and anarchists at a series of events named May Days, as Joseph Stalin tried to seize control of the Republicans. 54. Post-war era. Rojava's support efforts for workers to form cooperatives is exemplified in the sewing cooperative. At the end of World War II, the anarchist movement was severely weakened. 55. The 1960s witnessed a revival of anarchism, likely caused by a perceived failure of Marxism, Leninism and tensions built by the Cold War. 56. During this time, anarchism found a presence in other movements critical towards both capitalism and the state, such as the anti-nuclear, environmental, and peace movements, the counterculture of the 1960s, and the New Left. 57. It also saw a transition from its previous revolutionary nature to provocative anti-capitalist reformism. 58. Anarchism became associated with punk subculture, as exemplified by bands such as Crass and the Sex Pistols. 59. The established feminist tendencies of anarcho-feminism returned with vigor during the second wave of feminism. 60. Black anarchism began to take form at this time and influenced anarchism's move from a Eurocentric demographic. 61. This coincided with its failure to gain traction in Northern Europe and its unprecedented height in Latin America. 62. Around the turn of the 21st century, anarchism grew in popularity and influence within anti-capitalist, anti-war, and anti-globalization movements. 63. Anarchists became known for their involvement in protests against the World Trade Organization, WTO, the Group of Eight and the World Economic Forum. During the protests, ad hoc leaderless anonymous cotters known as black blocs engaged in rioting, property destruction and violent confrontations with the police. Other organizational tactics pioneered in this time include affinity groups, security culture, and the use of decentralized technologies such as the Internet. A significant event of this period was the confrontations at the 1999 Seattle WTO conference. 63. Anarchist ideas have been influential in the development of the Zapatistas in Mexico and the Democratic Federation of Northern Syria, more commonly known as Rojava, a de facto autonomous region in northern Syria. 64. Thought. Main article, Anarchist Schools of Thought. Anarchist schools of thought have been generally grouped into two main historical traditions, social anarchism and individualist anarchism, owing to their different origins, values, and evolution. 65. The individualist current emphasizes negative liberty in opposing restraints upon the free individual, while the social current emphasizes positive liberty in aiming to achieve the free potential of society through equality and social ownership. 66. In a chronological sense, anarchism can be segmented by the classical currents of the late 19th century and the post-classical currents, anarcho-feminism, green anarchism, and post-anarchism, developed thereafter. 67. Beyond the specific factions of anarchist movements which constitute political anarchism lies philosophical anarchism, which holds that the state lacks moral legitimacy, without necessarily accepting the imperative of revolution to eliminate it. 68 A component especially of individualist anarchism. 69 Philosophical anarchism may tolerate the existence of a minimal state but claims that citizens have no moral obligation to obey government when it conflicts with individual autonomy. 70 Anarchism pays significant attention to moral arguments since ethics have a central role in anarchist philosophy. 71 Anarchism's emphasis on anti-capitalism, egalitarianism, and for the extension of community and individuality sets it apart from anarcho-capitalism and other types of economic libertarianism. 21. Anarchism is usually placed on the far left of the political spectrum. 72 Much of its economics and legal philosophy reflect anti-authoritarian, anti-statist, libertarian, and radical interpretations of left-wing and socialist politics. 13 Such as collectivism, communism, individualism, mutualism, and syndicalism, among other libertarian socialist economic theories. 73 As anarchism does not offer a fixed body of doctrine from a single particular worldview. 74 Many anarchist types and traditions exist and varieties of anarchy diverge widely. 75 One reaction against sectarianism within the anarchist milieu was anarchism without adjectives, a call for toleration and unity among anarchists first adopted by Fernando Terrada del Marmol in 1889 in response to the bitter debates of anarchist theory at the time. 76 Belief in political nihilism has been espoused by anarchists. 77 Despite separation, the various anarchist schools of thought are not seen as distinct entities but rather as tendencies that intermingle and are connected through a set of uniform principles such as individual and local autonomy, mutual aid, network organization, communal democracy, justified authority, and decentralization. 78. Classical. Pierre-Joseph Proudhon is the primary proponent of mutualism and influenced many future individualist anarchist and social anarchist thinkers. 79. Inceptive currents among classical anarchist currents were mutualism and individualism. They were followed by the major currents of social anarchism, collectivist, communist, and syndicalist. They differ on organizational and economic aspects of their ideal society. 80. Mutualism is an 18th century economic theory that was developed into anarchist theory by Pierre-Joseph Proudhon. Its aims include reciprocity, free association, voluntary contract, federation, and monetary reform of both credit and currency that would be regulated by a bank of the people. 81 Mutualism has been retrospectively characterized as ideologically situated between individualist and collectivist forms of anarchism. 82 In What is Property? 1840, Proudhon first characterized his goal as a third form of society, the synthesis of communism and property. 83. Collectivist anarchism is a revolutionary socialist form of anarchism. 84 Commonly associated with Mikhail Bakunin. 85 Collectivist anarchists advocate collective ownership of the means of production which is theorized to be achieved through violent revolution. 86 And that workers be paid according to time worked, rather than goods being distributed according to need as in communism. Collectivist anarchism arose alongside Marxism but rejected the dictatorship of the proletariat despite the stated Marxist goal of a collectivist stateless society. 87. Anarcho-communism is a theory of anarchism that advocates a communist society with common ownership of the means of production. 88 Direct democracy and a horizontal network of voluntary associations, workers' councils, and worker cooperatives, with production and consumption based on the guiding principle from each according to his ability, to each according to his need. 89. Anarcho-communism developed from radical socialist currents after the French Revolution. 90 But was first formulated as such in the Italian section of the First International. 91 It was later expanded upon in the theoretical work of Peter Kropotkin. 92 Whose specific style would go on to become the dominating view of anarchists by the late 19th century. 93 Anarcho-syndicalism is a branch of anarchism that views labor syndicates as a potential force for revolutionary social change, replacing capitalism and the state with a new society democratically self-managed by workers. The basic principles of anarcho-syndicalism are direct action, workers' solidarity, and workers' self-management. 94. Individualist anarchism is a set of several traditions of thought within the anarchist movement that emphasize the individual and their will over any kinds of external determinants. 95 Early influences on individualist forms of anarchism include William Godwin, Max Stirner, and Henry David Thoreau. Through many countries, individualist anarchism attracted a small yet diverse following of bohemian artists and intellectuals. 96 As well as young anarchist outlaws in what became known as illegalism and individual reclamation. 97. Post-classical and contemporary. Main article, Contemporary Anarchism. Lawrence Girac, left, and John Zerzan, right, are two prominent contemporary anarchist authors, with Zerzan being a prominent voice within anarcho-primitivism and Girac a notable advocate of post-left anarchy. Anarchist principles undergird contemporary radical social movements of the left. Interest in the anarchist movement developed alongside momentum in the anti-globalization movement. 98 Whose leading activist networks were anarchist in orientation. 99 As the movement shaped 21st century radicalism, wider embrace of anarchist principles signaled a revival of interest. 99 Anarchism has continued to generate many philosophies and movements, at times eclectic, drawing upon various sources and syncretic, combining disparate concepts to create new philosophical approaches. 100 The anti-capitalist tradition of classical anarchism has remained prominent within contemporary currents. 101 Contemporary news coverage which emphasizes Black Bloc demonstrations has reinforced anarchism's historical association with chaos and violence. Its publicity has also led more scholars in fields such as anthropology and history to engage with the anarchist movement, although contemporary anarchism favors actions over academic theory. 102 Various anarchist groups, tendencies, and schools of thought exist today, making it difficult to describe the contemporary anarchist movement. 103 While theorists and activists have established relatively stable constellations of anarchist principles, there is no consensus on which principles are core, and commentators describe multiple anarchisms, rather than a singular anarchism, in which common principles are shared between schools of anarchism while each group prioritizes those principles differently. Gender equality can be a common principle, although it ranks as a higher priority to anarcho-feminists than anarcho-communists. 104. Anarchists are generally committed against coercive authority in all forms, namely all centralized and hierarchical forms of government, example monarchy, representative democracy, state socialism, etc., economic class systems, example capitalism, Bolshevism, feudalism, slavery, etc., autocratic religions, example fundamentalist Islam, Roman Catholicism, etc., patriarchy, heterosexism, white supremacy, and imperialism. 105. Anarchist schools disagree on the methods by which these forms should be opposed. 106 The principle of equal liberty is closer to anarchist political ethics in that it transcends both the liberal and socialist traditions. This entails that liberty and equality cannot be implemented within the state, resulting in the questioning of all forms of domination and hierarchy. 107. Tactics. Anarchists' tactics take various forms but in general serve two major goals, namely to first oppose the establishment and secondly to promote anarchist ethics and reflect an anarchist vision of society, illustrating the unity of means and ends. 108 A broad categorization can be made between aims to destroy oppressive states and institutions by revolutionary means on one hand and aims to change society through evolutionary means on the other. 109 Evolutionary tactics embrace nonviolence, reject violence and take a gradual approach to anarchist aims, although there is significant overlap between the two. 110. Anarchist tactics have shifted during the course of the last century. Anarchists during the early 20th century focused more on strikes and militancy while contemporary anarchists use a broader array of approaches. 111. Classical era tactics. A relationship between anarchism and violence is a controversial subject among anarchists, as shown by anarchist Leon Czolgosz assassinating William McKinley. During the classical era, anarchists had a militant tendency. Not only did they confront state armed forces, as in Spain and Ukraine, but some of them also employed terrorism as propaganda of the deed. Assassination attempts were carried out against heads of state, some of which were successful. Anarchists also took part in revolutions. 112 Many anarchists, especially the Galenists, believed that these attempts would be the impetus for a revolution against capitalism and the state. 113 Many of these attacks were done by individual assailants, and the majority took place in the late 1870s, the early 1880s and the 1890s, with some still occurring in the early 1900s. 114 Their decrease in prevalence was the result of further judicial power and targeting and cataloging by state institutions. 115 Anarchist perspectives towards violence have always been perplexing and controversial. 116 On one hand, anarcho-pacifists point out the unity of means and ends. 117 On the other hand, other anarchist groups advocate direct action, a tactic which can include acts of sabotage or even acts of terrorism. This attitude was quite prominent a century ago when seeing the state as a tyrant, and some anarchists believing that they had every right to oppose its oppression by any means possible. 118 Emma Goldman and Enrico Malatesta, who were proponents of limited use of violence, stated that violence is merely a reaction to state violence as a necessary evil. 119 Anarchists took an active role in strike actions, although they tended to be antipathetic to formal syndicalism, seeing it as reformist. They saw it as a part of the movement which sought to overthrow the state and capitalism. 120 Anarchists also reinforced their propaganda within the arts, some of whom practiced naturism and nudism. Those anarchists also built communities which were based on friendship and were involved in the news media. 121 Revolutionary tactics. Black Bloc protesters parading anarcho-communism imagery such as the motto "No war but the class war." In the current era, Italian anarchist Alfredo Bonanno, a proponent of insurrectionary anarchism, has reinstated the debate on violence by rejecting the nonviolence tactic adopted since the late 19th century by Kropotkin and other prominent anarchists afterwards. Both Bonanno and the French group The Invisible Committee advocate for small, informal affiliation groups, where each member is responsible for their own actions but works together to bring down oppression utilizing sabotage and other violent means against state, capitalism, and other enemies. Members of the Invisible Committee were arrested in 2008 on various charges, terrorism included. 122 Overall, contemporary anarchists are much less violent and militant than their ideological ancestors. They mostly engage in confronting the police during demonstrations and riots, especially in countries such as Canada, Greece, and Mexico. Militant Black Bloc protest groups are known for clashing with the police. 123 However, anarchists not only clash with state operators, they also engage in the struggle against fascists and racists, taking anti-fascist action and mobilizing to prevent hate rallies from happening. 124 Evolutionary tactics. Anarchists commonly employ direct action. This can take the form of disrupting and protesting against unjust hierarchy, or the form of self-managing their lives through the creation of counter-institutions such as communes and non-hierarchical collectives. 109 Decision-making is often handled in an anti-authoritarian way, with everyone having equal say in each decision, an approach known as horizontalism. 125 Contemporary era anarchists have been engaging with various grassroots movements that are more or less based on horizontalism, although not explicitly anarchist, respecting personal autonomy and participating in mass activism such as strikes and demonstrations. In contrast with the big A anarchism of the classical era, the newly coined term small a anarchism signals their tendency not to base their thoughts and actions on classical era anarchism or to refer to classical anarchists such as Peter Kropotkin and Pierre-Joseph Proudhon to justify their opinions. Those anarchists would rather base their thought and praxis on their own experience, which they will later theorize. 126. The decision-making process of small anarchist affinity groups plays a significant tactical role. 127 Anarchists have employed various methods in order to build a rough consensus among members of their group without the need of a leader or a leading group. One way is for an individual from the group to play the role of facilitator to help achieve a consensus without taking part in the discussion themselves or promoting a specific point. Minorities usually accept rough consensus, except when they feel the proposal contradicts anarchist ethics, goals, and values. Anarchists usually form small groups, 5 to 20 individuals, to enhance autonomy and friendships among their members. These kinds of groups more often than not interconnect with each other, forming larger networks. Anarchists still support and participate in strikes, especially wildcat strikes, as these are leaderless strikes not organized centrally by a syndicate. 128. As in the past, newspapers and journals are used, and anarchists have gone online in the World Wide Web to spread their message. Anarchists have found it easier to create websites because of distributional and other difficulties, hosting electronic libraries and other portals. 129 anarchists were also involved in developing various software that are available for free. The way these hacktivists work to develop and distribute resembles the anarchist ideals, especially when it comes to preserving users' privacy from state surveillance. 130. Anarchists organize themselves to squat and reclaim public spaces. During important events such as protests and when spaces are being occupied, they are often called temporary autonomous zones, TAZs, spaces where art, poetry, and surrealism are blended to display the anarchist ideal. 131 As seen by anarchists, squatting is a way to regain urban space from the capitalist market, serving pragmatical needs and also being an exemplary direct action. 132 Acquiring space enables anarchists to experiment with their ideas and build social bonds. 133 Adding up these tactics while having in mind that not all anarchists share the same attitudes towards them, along with various forms of protesting at highly symbolic events, make up a carnivalesque atmosphere that is part of contemporary anarchist vividity. 134. Key issues. Main article, Issues in Anarchism. As anarchism is a philosophy that embodies many diverse attitudes, tendencies, and schools of thought, disagreement over questions of values, ideology, and tactics is common. Its diversity has led to widely different uses of identical terms among different anarchist traditions, which has created a number of definitional concerns in anarchist theory. The compatibility of capitalism 135 nationalism and religion with anarchism is widely disputed, and anarchism enjoys complex relationships with ideologies such as communism, collectivism, Marxism, and trade unionism. Anarchists may be motivated by humanism, divine authority, enlightened self-interest, veganism, or any number of alternative ethical doctrines. Phenomena such as civilization, technology, e.g. within anarcho-primitivism, and the democratic process may be sharply criticized within some anarchist tendencies and simultaneously lauded in others. 136. Gender, sexuality, and free love. See also, Anarchism and issues related to love and sex. Émile Armand was a French individualist anarchist who propounded the virtues of free love in the Parisian anarchist milieu of the early 20th century. As gender and sexuality carry along them dynamics of hierarchy, anarchism is obliged to address, analyze, and oppose the suppression of one's autonomy because of the dynamics that gender roles traditionally impose. 137. Collection of anarcho-feminist protests, symbols, and flags. Sexuality was not often discussed by classical anarchists, but the few that did felt that an anarchist society would lead to sexuality naturally developing. 138 Sexual violence was a concern for anarchists such as Benjamin Tucker, who opposed age of consent laws, believing they would benefit predatory men. 139 A historical current that arose and flourished during 1890 and 1920 within anarchism was free love. In contemporary anarchism, this current survives as a tendency to support polyamory and queer anarchism. 140 free love advocates were against marriage, which they saw as a way of men imposing authority over women, largely because marriage law greatly favored the power of men. The notion of free love was much broader and included a critique of the established order that limited women's sexual freedom and pleasure. 141 Those free love movements contributed to the establishment of communal houses, where large groups of travelers, anarchists, and other activists slept in beds together. 142 Free love had roots both in Europe and the United States. However, some anarchists struggled with the jealousy that arose from free love. 143 Anarchist feminists were advocates of free love, against marriage, and pro-choice, utilizing a contemporary term, and had a similar agenda. Anarchist and non-anarchist feminists differed on suffrage but were supportive of one another. 144. During the second half of the 20th century, anarchism intermingled with the second wave of feminism, radicalizing some currents of the feminist movement and being influenced as well. By the latest decades of the 20th century, anarchists and feminists were advocating for the rights and autonomy of women, gays, queers and other marginalized groups, with some feminist thinkers suggesting a fusion of the two currents. 145 With the third wave of feminism, sexual identity and compulsory heterosexuality became a subject of study for anarchists, yielding a post-structuralist critique of sexual normality. 146 Some anarchists distanced themselves from this line of thinking, suggesting that it leaned towards an individualism that was dropping the cause of social liberation. 147. Anarchism and Education. Main article, Anarchism and Education. Anarchist versus Statist Perspectives on Education. Ruth Kinna, 2019, 148. Anarchist Education State Education. Concept Education as Self-Mastery Education as Service. Management Community-Based State-Run. Methods Practice-Based Learning Vocational Training. Aims Being a critical member of society, being a productive member of society. The interest of anarchists in education stretches back to the first emergence of classical anarchism. Anarchists consider proper education, one which sets the foundations of the future autonomy of the individual and the society, to be an act of mutual aid. 149 Anarchist writers such as William Godwin, Political Justice, and Max Stirner, The False Principle of Our Education, attack both state education and private education as another means by which the ruling class replicate their privileges. 150. In 1901, Catalan anarchist and freethinker Francisco Ferrer established the Escuela Moderna in Barcelona as an opposition to the established education system which was dictated largely by the Catholic Church. 151 Ferrer's approach was secular, rejecting both state and church involvement in the educational process whilst giving pupils large amounts of autonomy in planning their work and attendance. Ferrer aimed to educate the working class and explicitly sought to foster class consciousness among students. The school closed after constant harassment by the state and Ferrer was later arrested. Nonetheless, his ideas formed the inspiration for a series of modern schools around the world. 152 Christian anarchist Leo Tolstoy, who published the essay Education and Culture, also established a similar school with its founding principle being that for education to be effective it had to be free. 153. In a similar token, A.S. Neal founded what became the Summerhill School in 1921, also declaring being free from coercion. 154. Anarchist education is based largely on the idea that a child's right to develop freely and without manipulation ought to be respected and that rationality would lead children to morally good conclusions. However, there has been little consensus among anarchist figures as to what constitutes manipulation. Ferrer believed that moral indoctrination was necessary and explicitly taught pupils that equality, liberty, and social justice were not possible under capitalism, along with other critiques of government and nationalism. 155. Late 20th century and contemporary anarchist writers, Paul Goodman, Herbert Read, and Colin Ward, intensified and expanded the anarchist critique of state education, largely focusing on the need for a system that focuses on children's creativity rather than on their ability to attain a career or participate in consumerism as part of a consumer society. 156 contemporary anarchists such as Ward claim that state education serves to perpetuate socio-economic inequality. 157. While few anarchist education institutions have survived to the modern day, major tenets of anarchist schools, among them respect for child autonomy and relying on reasoning rather than indoctrination as a teaching method, have spread among mainstream educational institutions. Judith Suissa names 3 schools as explicitly anarchist schools, namely the Free School Santa Cruz in the United States, which is part of a wider American-Canadian network of schools, the Self-Managed Learning College in Brighton, England, and the Paideia School in Spain. 158. Anarchism and the state. Objection to the state and its institutions is a sine qua non of anarchism. 159 Anarchists consider the state as a tool of domination and believe it to be illegitimate regardless of its political tendencies. Instead of people being able to control the aspects of their life, major decisions are taken by a small elite. Authority ultimately rests solely on power, regardless of whether that power is open or transparent, as it still has the ability to coerce people. Another anarchist argument against states is that the people constituting a government, even the most altruistic among officials, will unavoidably seek to gain more power, leading to corruption. Anarchists consider the idea that the state is the collective will of the people to be an unachievable fiction due to the fact that the ruling class is distinct from the rest of society. 160. Specific anarchist attitudes towards the state vary. Robert Paul Wolff believed that the tension between authority and autonomy would mean the state could never be legitimate. Bakunin saw the state as meaning coercion, domination by means of coercion, camouflaged if possible but unceremonious and overt if need be. E. John Simmons and Leslie Green, who leaned toward philosophical anarchism, believed that the state could be legitimate if it is governed by consensus, although they saw this as highly unlikely. 161 beliefs on how to abolish the state also differ. 162. Anarchism and the arts. Main article, Anarchism and the arts. Les Châtaigniers Osni, 1888, by anarchist painter Camille Pissarro is a notable example of blending anarchism and the arts. 163. The connection between anarchism and art was quite profound during the classical era of anarchism, especially among artistic currents that were developing during that era such as futurists, surrealists, and others. 164 In literature, anarchism was mostly associated with the New Apocalyptics and the Neo-Romanticism movement. 165 In music, anarchism has been associated with music scenes such as punk. 166 Anarchists such as Leo Tolstoy and Herbert Read stated that the border between the artist and the non-artist, what separates art from a daily act, is a construct produced by the alienation caused by capitalism and it prevents humans from living a joyful life. 167. Other anarchists advocated for or used art as a means to achieve anarchist ends. 168 In his book Breaking the Spell, A History of Anarchist Filmmakers, Videotape Guerrillas, and Digital Ninjas, Chris Rowe claims that anarchist-inflected practices have increasingly structured movement-based video activism. 169. Throughout the 20th century, many prominent anarchists, Peter Kropotkin, Emma Goldman, Gustav Landauer, and Camillo Vernieri, and publications such as Anarchy wrote about matters pertaining to the arts. 170. 3 overlapping properties made art useful to anarchists. It could depict a critique of existing society and hierarchies, serve as a prefigurative tool to reflect the anarchist ideal society and even turn into a means of direct action such as in protests. As it appeals to both emotion and reason, art could appeal to the whole human and have a powerful effect. 171 The 19th century neo-impressionist movement had an ecological aesthetic and offered an example of an anarchist perception of the road towards socialism. 172 In La Chataigneuse Osni by anarchist painter Camille Pissarro, the blending of aesthetic and social harmony is prefiguring an ideal anarchistic agrarian community. 163. Analysis. The most common critique of anarchism is that humans cannot self-govern and so a state is necessary for human survival. Philosopher Bertrand Russell supported this critique, stating that peace and war, tariffs, regulations of sanitary conditions and the sale of noxious drugs, the preservation of a just system of distribution, these, among others, are functions which could hardly be performed in a community in which there was no central government. 173 Better. Source needed. Another common criticism of anarchism is that it fits a world of isolation in which only the small enough entities can be self-governing. A response would be that major anarchist thinkers advocated anarchist federalism. 174. Philosophy lecturer Andrew G. Fiala composed a list of common arguments against anarchism, which includes critiques such as that anarchism is innately related to violence and destruction, not only in the pragmatic world, such as at protests, but in the world of ethics as well. Secondly, anarchism is evaluated as unfeasible or utopian since the state cannot be defeated practically. This line of arguments most often calls for political action within the system to reform it. The third argument is that anarchism is self-contradictory. While it advocates for no one to archy, if accepted by the many, then anarchism would turn into the ruling political theory. In this line of criticism also comes the self-contradiction that anarchism calls for collective action whilst endorsing the autonomy of the individual, hence no collective action can be taken. Lastly, Fiala mentions a critique towards philosophical anarchism of being ineffective, all talk and thoughts, and in the meantime capitalism and bourgeois class remain strong. 175. Philosophical anarchism has met the criticism of members of academia following the release of pro-anarchist books such as A. John Simmons' Moral Principles and Political Obligations. 176 Law professor William A. Edmondson authored an essay to argue against three major philosophical anarchist principles which he finds fallacious. Edmondson says that while the individual does not owe the state a duty of obedience, this does not imply that anarchism is the inevitable conclusion and the state is still morally legitimate. 177 In the problem of political authority, Michael Huemer defends philosophical anarchism. 178 Claiming that political authority is a moral illusion. 179. One of the earliest criticism is that anarchism defies and fails to understand the biological inclination to authority. 180 Joseph Raz states that the acceptance of authority implies the belief that following their instructions will afford more success. 181 Raz believes that this argument is true in following both authority's successful and mistaken instruction. 182 Anarchists reject this criticism because challenging or disobeying authority does not entail the disappearance of its advantages by acknowledging authority such as doctors or lawyers as reliable, nor does it involve a complete surrender of independent judgment. 183 Anarchist perception of human nature, rejection of the state, and commitment to social revolution has been criticized by academics as naive, overly simplistic, and unrealistic, respectively. 184 Classical anarchism has been criticized for relying too heavily on the belief that the abolition of the state will lead to human cooperation prospering. 138. Friedrich Engels, considered to be one of the principal founders of Marxism, criticized anarchism's anti-authoritarianism as inherently counter-revolutionary because in his view a revolution is by itself authoritarian. 185 Academic John Molyneux writes in his book Anarchism, a Marxist criticism that anarchism cannot win, believing that it lacks the ability to properly implement its ideas. 186 The Marxist criticism of anarchism is that it has a utopian character because all individuals should have anarchist views and values. According to the Marxist view, that a social idea would follow directly from this human ideal and out of the free will of every individual formed its essence. Marxists state that this contradiction was responsible for their inability to act. In the anarchist vision, the conflict between liberty and equality was resolved through coexistence and intertwining. 187. See also: Flag Anarchism Portal, Libertarianism Portal, Anarchism by Country, Governance Without Government, List of anarchist political ideologies, List of books about anarchism. References. Citations: Carlson 1972, pages 22 to 23. Bates 2017, p. 128, Long 2013, p. 217. Merriam-Webster 2019, Anarchism, Oxford English Dictionary 2005, Anarchism, Sylvan 2007, p. 260. Jal 1964, pages 27 to 37. Nettelo 1996, p. 162. Garin 1970, The Basic Ideas of Anarchism. Ward 2004, p. 62. Goodway 2006, p. 4. Skirta 2002, p. 183. Fernandez 2009, p. 9. Morris 2002, p. 61. Marshall 1992, p. 641. Cohn 2009, p. 6. Marshall 1992, p. 641. Marshall 1992, p. 641. Chomsky 2005, p. 123. Cohn 2009, p. 6. Adams and Levy 2018, p. 104. Adams and Levy 2018, p. 104. Garin 1970, p. 12. Arvidsson 2017. Chomsky 2005, p. 123. Otero 1994, p. 617. Osgood 1889, p. 1. Newman 2005, p. 15. Morris 2015, p. 64. Walter 2002, p. 44. Marshall 1992, pages 564 to 565. Jennings 1993, p. 143. Gay and Gay 1999, p. 15. Morris 2008, p. 13. Johnson 2008, p. 169. Franks 2013, pages 393 to 394. Jennings 1999, p. 147. Long 2013, p. 217. McLaughlin 2007, p. 166. June 2009, p. 507. Franks 2013, pages 386 to 388. McLaughlin 2007, pages 25 to 29. Long 2013, pages 217. McLaughlin 2007, pages 25 to 26. Marshall 1993, p. 70. Graham 2005, pages 11, 14. Coutinho 2016, Marshall 1993, p. 54. Sylvan 2007, p. 257. Marshall 1993, pages 4, 66 to 73. Marshall 1993, p. 86. Adams 2014, pages 33 to 63. Marshall 1993, p. 4. Marshall 1993, pages 4 to 5. Levy 2011, pages 10 to 15. Dodson 2002, p. 312. Thomas 1985, P187, Chalian and Flynn 2007, P116. Graham 2019, pages 334 to 336, Marshall 1993, P24. Levy 2011, P12. Marshall 1993, P5. Graham 2005, P12. Moya 2015, P327. Levy 2011, P16. Marshall 1993, pages 519 to 521. Derlick 1991, P133, Ramnath 2019, pages 681 to 682. Levy 2011, P23, Larson 2019, P157, Marshall 1993, pages 504 to 508. Marshall 1993, pages 633 to 636. Anderson 2004. Marshall 1993, pages 633 to 636. Lutz and Ulmschneider 2019, P46. Bandman 2019, P374. Avrish 2006, P204. Nomad 1966, P88. Bulletin 1984, P1107. Marshall 1993, pages 11, 466. Marshall 1993, P11. Marshall 1993, P539. Marshall 1993, pages 11, 539. Levy 2011, pages 5. Marshall 1993, pages 493 to 494. Marshall 1993, pages 556 to 557. Williams 2015, P680. Harmon 2011, P70. Gruber 2006, P66. Ramnath 2019, P691. McLean and Macmillan 2003, Anarchism, Oster Gr 2003, P14, Anarchism. Harrison and Boyd 2003, P251. Adams and Levy 2019, P9. Egomenides 2014, P2. Oster Gr 2003, P12. Gabarty 1986, pages 300 to 302. Klosko 2005, P4. Franks 2019, P549. Brooks 1994, P11. Kahn 2000, Moynihan 2007. Garin 1970, P35, Critique of Authoritarian Socialism. Marshall 1993, pages 14 to 17. Sylvan 2007, P262. Avrish 1996, P6. Walter 2002, P52. Marshall 1993, P126. Angel Beck and Greer 2012, P551. Wilbur 2019, P216 to 218. Adams and Levy 2019, P2. Wilbur 2019, pages 213 to 218. Avrish 1996, P6. Miller 1991, P11. Pearson 2013, P187. Morris 1993, P76. Shannon 2019, P101. Avrish 1996, pages 3 to 4. Haywood 2017, pages 146 to 147. Bakunin 1990. Maine 1999, p131. Marshall 1993, p327, Turcato 2019, pages 237 to 323. Graham 2005. Pernicon 2009, pages 111 to 113. Turcato 2019, pages 239 to 244. Levy 2011, pages 6. Van der Waal 2019, p249. Riley 2019, p225. Marshall 1993, p440. Imrie 1994, Perry 1987, p15. Everin 2011, p1. Everin 2011, p2. Perlin 1979. Williams 2018, p4. Williams 2010, p110. Everin 2011, p1. Angel Beck and Greer 2012, p549. Franks 2013, pages 385 to 386. Franks 2013, p386. June 2009, pages 507 to 508. June 2009, p507. Egomenides 2014, p91. Williams 2019, pages 107 to 108. Williams 2018, pages 4 to 5. Tina 2019, p125. Williams 2019, p112. Williams 2019, pages 112 to 113. Norris 2020, pages 7 to 8. Levy 2011, p13. Nesser 2012, p62. Harmon 2011, p55. Carter 1978, p320. Viala 2017. Kinna 2019, pages 116 to 117. Carter 1978, pages 320 to 325. Williams 2019, p113. Williams 2019, p114. Kinna 2019, pages 134 to 135. Williams 2019, p115. Williams 2019, p117. Williams 2019, pages 109 to 117. Kinna 2019, pages 145 to 149. Williams 2019, pages 109, 119. Williams 2019, p119 to 121. Williams 2019, pages 118 to 119. Williams 2019, pages 120 to 121. Kinna 2019, p139. Mattern 2019, p596. Williams 2018, pages 5 to 6. Kinna 2012, p250. Williams 2019, p119. Williams 2019, p122. Moreland 2004, p37 to 38. Marshall 1993, p565. Hahn Eric 1995, p31. Meltzer 2000, p50. Goodway 2006, p4. Newman 2010, p53. DeGeorge 2005, pages 31 to 32. Nicholas 2019, p603. Lucy 2020, P162. Lucy 2020, P178. Nicholas 2019, P611, Jefferson and Nazar 2012, pages 175 to 176. Jefferson and Nazar 2012, pages 175 to 176. Jefferson and Nazar 2012, P177. Jefferson and Nazar 2012, pages 175 to 177. Kinna 2019, pages 166 to 167. Nicholas 2019, pages 609 to 611. Nicholas 2019, pages 610 to 611. Nicholas 2019, pages 616 to 617. Kinna 2019, P97. Kinna 2019, pages 83 to 85. Suicide 2019, pages 514, 521. Kinna 2019, pages 83 to 86. Marshall 1993, P222. Suicide 2019, pages 511 to 512. Suicide 2019, pages 511 to 514. Suicide 2019, pages 517 to 518. Suicide 2019, pages 518 to 519. Avrish 1980, pages 3 to 33. Suicide 2019, pages 519 to 522. Kinna 2019, pages 89 to 96. Ward 1973, pages 39 to 48. Suicide 2019, pages 523 to 526. Carter 1971, P14, June 2019, pages 29 to 30. June 2019, pages 32 to 38. Went 2020, P2, Ashwood 2018, P727. Ashwood 2018, P735. Antliff 1998, P99. Mattern 2019, P592. Gifford 2019, P577. Marshall 1993, pages 493 to 494. Dunn 2012, Everin, Kinna and Roussel 2013. Mattern 2019, pages 592 to 593. Mattern 2019, P593. Rogue 2017, P44. Miller ETAL 2019, P1. Mattern 2019, pages 593 to 596. Antliff 1998, P78. Peterson 1987, P238. Ward 2004, P78. Diala 2017, 4. Objections and replies. Klosko 1999, P536. Klosko 1999, P536. Chris Jansen 2000, P896. Dagger 2018, P35. Rogers 2020. Ferguson 1886. Gans 1992, P37. Gans 1992, P38. Gans 1992, pages 34, 38. Brin 2020, P206. Tucker 1978. Dodds 2011. RETAL 2016, P488. Notes. In Anarchism, From Theory to Practice, 1970, 13 anarchist historian Daniel Guerin described it as a synonym for libertarian socialism, and wrote that anarchism is really a synonym for socialism. The anarchist is primarily a socialist whose aim is to abolish the exploitation of man by man. Anarchism is only one of the streams of socialist thought, that stream whose main components are concern for liberty and haste to abolish the state. 14. In his many works on anarchism, such as Chomsky on Anarchism, 2005, 15 historian Noam Chomsky describes anarchism, alongside libertarian Marxism, as the libertarian wing of socialism. 16. Herbert L. Osgood claimed that anarchism is the extreme antithesis of authoritarian communism and state socialism. 17. Peter Marshall states that in general anarchism is closer to socialism than liberalism. Anarchism finds itself largely in the socialist camp, but it also has outriders in liberalism. It cannot be reduced to socialism, and is best seen as a separate and distinctive doctrine. 10. According to Jeremy Jennings, it is hard not to conclude that these ideas, referring to anarcho-capitalism, are described as anarchist only on the basis of a misunderstanding of what anarchism is. Jennings adds that anarchism does not stand for the untrammeled freedom of the individual, as the anarcho-capitalists appear to believe, but, as we have already seen, for the extension of individuality and community. 22. Nicholas Walter wrote that anarchism does derive from liberalism and socialism both historically and ideologically. In a sense, anarchists always remain liberals and socialists, and whenever they reject what is good in either they betray anarchism itself. We are liberals but more so, and socialists but more so. 20. Michael Newman includes anarchism as one of many socialist traditions, especially the more socialist-aligned tradition following Proudhon and Mikhail Bakunin. 18. Brian Morris argues that it is conceptually and historically misleading to create a dichotomy between socialism and anarchism. 19. One common definition adopted by anarchists is that anarchism is a cluster of political philosophies opposing authority and hierarchical organization, including capitalism, nationalism, the state, and all associated institutions, in the conduct of all human relations in favor of a society based on decentralization, freedom, and voluntary association. Scholars highlight that this definition has the same shortcomings as the definition based on anti-authoritarianism, a posteriori conclusion, anti-statism. Anarchism is much more than that, 24 and etymology, negation of rulers. 25. Sources. Primary sources. Bakunin, Mikhail, 1990, 1873. Schatz, Marshall, ed. Statism and Anarchy. Cambridge Texts in the History of Political Thought. Translated by Schatz, Marshall. Cambridge, England, Cambridge University Press. DOI 10.1017/CB09781139168083. ISBN 978-0-521-36182-8. LCCN 89077393. OCLC 208266465. Secondary sources. Adams, Matthew S. January 14, 2014. The Possibilities of Anarchist History, Rethinking the Canon and Writing History. Anarchist Developments in Cultural Studies. 2013.1, Blasting the Canon, 33-63. Retrieved December 17, 2019, via University of Victoria Libraries. Adams, Matthew S., Levy, Carl, eds. 2018. The Palgrave Handbook of Anarchism. Palgrave Macmillan. ISBN 978-3-319-75619-6. Adams, Matthew S., Levy, Carl, 2019. Introduction. In Adams, Matthew S., Levy, Carl, eds. The Palgrave Handbook of Anarchism. Springer Publishing. Pages 1 to 23. ISBN 978-3-319-75620-2. Angel Beck, Bill, Greer, Colin, 2012. Anarchism and the Archaeology of Anarchic Societies, Resistance to Centralization in the Coast Salish region of the Pacific Northwest Coast. Current Anthropology. 53, 547 to 587 doi 10.1086/667621. Antliff, Mark, 1998. Cubism, Futurism, Anarchism, the Aestheticism of the Action Dart Group, 1906-1920. Oxford Art Journal. 21, to 101 to 120 doi 10.1093/oxot J/21.2.99. Jaster 136-0616. Anderson, Benedict, 2004. In the World Shadow of Bismarck and Nobel. New Left Review. 2, 2885 to 129. Archived from the original on December 19, 2015. Retrieved January 7, 2016. Arvidsson, Stefan, 2017. The Style and Mythology of Socialism, Socialist Idealism, 1871 to 1914, 1st ed. London, Routledge. ISBN 9780367348809. Ashwood, Loka, 2018. Rural Conservatism or Anarchism. The Pro-State, Stateless, and Anti-State Positions. Rural Sociology. 83, 4717 to 748 doi 10.1111/Russo.12226. Avrish, Paul, 1996. Anarchist Voices, An Oral History of Anarchism in America. Princeton University Press. ISBN 978-0-691-04494-1. Avrish, Paul, 2006. The Russian Anarchists. Sterling, AK Press. ISBN 978-1-904859-48-2. Avrish, Paul, 1980. The Modern School Movement, Anarchism and Education in the United States. Princeton University Press. Pages 3 to 33. ISBN 978-1-4008-5318-2. OCLC 4896922159. Barr, Monica, Galina, Maria, Yanofsky, Mashich, Kopisik, Michael, Trenksanii, Balish Trenksanii, 2016. A History of Modern Political Thought in East Central Europe, Negotiating Modernity in the Long 19th Century. Oxford, Oxford University Press. ISBN 978-0-19-105695-6. Bantman, Constance, 2019. The Era of Propaganda by the Deed. In Levy, Carl, Adams, Matthew S. eds. The Palgrave Handbook of Anarchism. Springer Publishing. Pages 371 to 388. ISBN 978-3-319-75620-2. Bates, David, 2017. Anarchism. In Paul Weatherly, ed. Political Ideologies. Oxford University Press. ISBN 978-0-19-872785-9. Bernstein, David Elliott, 2020. The Right to Armed Self-Defense in the Light of Law Enforcement Abdication. Liberty and Law Center. George Mason University, 20-23 1-42. Bulletin, Burnett, 1984. The Spanish Civil War, Revolution and Counter-Revolution. University of North Carolina Press. ISBN 978-0-8078-1906-7. Bryn, Leroy, 2020. Smashing the State Gently, Radical Realism and Realist Anarchism. European Journal of Political Theory. 19, 206-227 doi 10.1177/147488511986595. S2 SID 2022781143. Brooks, Frank H. 1994. The Individualist Anarchists, An Anthology of Liberty, 1881-1908. Transaction Publishers. ISBN 978-1-56000-132-4. Carlson, Andrew R. 1972. Anarchism in Germany, PDF. The Early Movement. Metuchen, New Jersey, Scarecrow Press. ISBN 978-0-81080-484-5. Carter, April, 1971. The Political Theory of Anarchism. Routledge. ISBN 978-0-415-55593-7. Carter, April, 1978. Anarchism and Violence. Nomos. American Society for Political and Legal Philosophy. 19, 320-340. Jaster 24219-053. Chaliand, Gerard, Lynn, Arnaud, eds. 2007. The History of Terrorism, From Antiquity to Al-Qaeda. Berkeley, Los Angeles, London, University of California Press. ISBN 978-0-520-24709-3. OCLC 634891-265. Chomsky, Noam, 2005. Pateman, Barry, ed. Chomsky on Anarchism. Oakland, AK Press. ISBN 978-1-904859-26-0. Cohn, Jesse, 2009. Anarchism. Innes, Emmanuel, ed. The International Encyclopedia of Revolution and Protest. Oxford, John Wiley & Sons. Pages 1-11. doi 10.10002781405198073073.ubirb0039. ISBN 978-1-4051-9807-3. Dagger, Tristan J. 2018. Playing Fair, Political Obligation and the Problems of Punishment. Oxford, Oxford University Press. ISBN 978-0-19-938883-7. Derlich, Arif, 1991. Anarchism in the Chinese Revolution. Berkeley CA, University of California Press. ISBN 978-0-520-07297-8. Dodds, Jonathan, October 2011. Anarchism, a Marxist Criticism. Socialist Review. Retrieved July 31, 2020. Dodson, Edward, 2002. The Discovery of First Principles. 2. Author House. ISBN 978-0-595-24912-1. Dunn, Kevin, August 2012. Anarcho-Punk and Resistance in Everyday Life. Punk and Post-Punk. Intellect. 1, 201-218 doi 10.1386/punk.1.2.201_1. Egomanize, Magda, 2014. Philosophical Anarchism and Political Obligation. New York, Bloomsbury Publishing USA. ISBN 978-1-4411-2445-6. Evren, Shuriya, 2011. How New Anarchism Changed the World of Opposition, After Seattle and Gave Birth to Post-Anarchism. In Rousseau, Wayne, Evren, Shuriya, eds. Post-Anarchism, a Reader. Pluto Press. Pages 1-19. ISBN 978-0-7453-3086-0. Evren, Shuriya, Kinna, Ruth, Roussel, Wayne, 2013. Blasting the Cannon. Santa Barbara, California, Punctum Books. ISBN 978-0615838625. Ferguson, Francis L. August 1886. The Mistakes of Anarchism. The North American Review. University of Northern Iowa. 143, 357 204-206. ISSN 0029-2397. Jaster 25101094. Fernandez, Frank, 2009, 2001. Cuban Anarchism, The History of a Movement. Sharp Press. Franks, Benjamin, August 2013. Frieden, Michael, Stairs, Mark, eds. Anarchism. The Oxford Handbook of Political Ideologies. Oxford University Press, 385-404. doi 10.1093/Oxford/978019585977013.00001. Franks, Benjamin, 2019. Anarchism and Ethics. In Levy, Carl, Adams, Matthew S. eds. The Palgrave Handbook of Anarchism. Springer Publishing. Pages 549-570. ISBN 978-3-319-75620-2. Gabbardy, Wayne, 1986. Anarchism. By David Miller. London, J. M. Dent and Sons, 1984. pp 216. Pound 10.95. American Political Science Review. 80, 1300-302 doi 10.2307/1957102. Jaster 446800. Gans, Heim, 1992. Philosophical Anarchism and Political Disobedience, reprint ed. Cambridge, Cambridge University Press. ISBN 978-0-521-41450-0. Gay, Kathleen, Gay, Martin, 1999. Encyclopedia of Political Anarchy. ABC Clio. ISBN 978-0-87436-982-3. Gifford, James, 2019. Literature and Anarchism. In Levy, Carl, Adams, Matthew S. eds. The Palgrave Handbook of Anarchism. Springer Publishing. ISBN 978-3-319-75620-2. Goodway, David, 2006. Anarchist Seeds Beneath the Snow. Liverpool Press. ISBN 978-1-84631-025-6. Graham, Robert, 2005. Anarchism, A Documentary History of Libertarian Ideas, From Anarchy to Anarchism. Montreal, Black Rose Books. ISBN 978-1-55164-250-5. Archived from the original on November 30, 2010. Retrieved March 5, 2011. Graham, Robert, 2019. Anarchism and the First International. In Levy, Carl, Adams, Matthew S. eds. The Palgrave Handbook of Anarchism. Springer. Pages 325 to 342. ISBN 978-3-319-75620-2. Guerin, Daniel, 1970. Anarchism, From Theory to Practice. Monthly Review Press. ISBN 978-0-85345-128-0. Harrison, Kevin, Boyd, Tony, December 5, 2003. Understanding Political Ideas and Movements. Manchester University Press. ISBN 978-0-7190-6151-6. Harmon, Christopher C. 2011. How Terrorist Groups End, Studies of the 20th Century. Connections. 10, 251-104. Jaster 26310-649. Haywood, Andrew, 2017. Political Ideologies, An Introduction, 6th ed. Macmillan International Higher Education. ISBN 978-1-137-60604-4. Hahn Eric, 10, 1995. The Oxford Companion to Philosophy. Oxford University Press. ISBN 978-0-19-866132-0. Imrie, Doug, 1994. The Illegalists. Anarchy, A Journal of Desire Armed. Archived from the original on September 8, 2015. Retrieved December 9, 2010. Jennings, Jeremy, 1993. Anarchism. In Eat Well, Roger, Wright, Anthony, eds. Contemporary Political Ideologies. London, Pinder. Pages 127 to 146. ISBN 978-0-86187-096-7. Jennings, Jeremy, 1999. Anarchism. In Eat Well, Roger, Wright, Anthony, eds. Contemporary Political Ideologies, reprinted, 2nd ed. London, A.N.C. Black. ISBN 978-0-8264-5173-6. Jeppesen, Sandra, Nazar, Holly, June 28, 2012. Genders and Sexualities in Anarchist Movements. In Ruth Kinna, ed. The Bloomsbury Companion to Anarchism. Bloomsbury Publishing. ISBN 978-1-4411-4270-2. Johnson, Charles, 2008. Liberty, Equality, Solidarity toward a Dialectical Anarchism. In Long, Roderick T. Mackin, Tibor R. eds. Anarchism/Monarchism, is a government part of a free country. Ashgate. Pages 155 to 188. ISBN 978-0-7546-6066-8. Jall, James, 1964. The Anarchists. Harvard University Press. ISBN 978-0-674-03642-0. June, Nathan, September 2009. Anarchist Philosophy and Working Class Struggle, A Brief History and Commentary. Work in Gusa. 12, 505 to 519 doi 10.1111/J.1743-4580.2009.00251.x. ISSN 1089-7011. June, Nathan, 2019. The State. In Levy, Carl, Adams, Matthew S. eds. The Palgrave Handbook of Anarchism. Springer Publishing. Pages 27 to 47. ISBN 978-3-319-75620-2. Kong, Joseph, 2000. Anarchism, the creed that won't stay dead, the spread of world capitalism resurrects a long-dormant movement. The New York Times, August 5. Kinna, Ruth, 2012. The Bloomsbury Companion to Anarchism. Bloomsbury Academic. ISBN 978-1-62892-435. Kinna, Ruth, 2019. The Government of No One, The Theory and Practice of Anarchism. Penguin Random House. ISBN 978-0-241-39655-1. Klosko, George, 1999. More Than Obligation, William A. Edmondson, Three Anarchical Fallacies, an Essay on Political Authority. The Review of Politics. 61. 536 to 538 doi 10.1017/S003467050002899. ISSN 1748 to 6858. Klosko, George, 2005. Political Obligations. Oxford University Press. ISBN 978-0-19-955104-0. Chris Jansen, Chris Jan, 2000. Three Anarchical Fallacies, an Essay on Political Authority by William A. Edmondson. Mind. 109, 436 896-900. Jaster 266-0038. Larson, Olbjerg, 2019. Anti-Imperialism. In Levy, Carl, Adams, Matthew S. eds. The Palgrave Handbook of Anarchism. Springer. Pages 149 to 168. ISBN 978-3-319-75620-2. Levy, Carl, May 8, 2011. Social Histories of Anarchism. Journal for the Study of Radicalism. 4, 21-44 doi 10.1353/JSR.2010.0003. ISSN 1930-1197. S2 SID 144317650. Long, Roderick T. 2013. God, Gerald F. D'Agostino, Fred, eds. The Routledge Companion to Social and Political Philosophy. Routledge. ISBN 978-0-415-87456-4. Lucy, Nicholas, 2020. Anarchism and Sexuality. The Sage Handbook of Global Sexualities. Sage Publishing. Pages 160 to 183. ISBN 978-1-5297-2194-2. Lutz, James M., Ulmschneider, George Erlstad, 2019. Civil Liberties, National Security, and U.S. Courts in Times of Terrorism. Perspectives on Terrorism. 13, 643-57. Jaster 26853740. Marshall, Peter, 1992. Demanding the Impossible, A History of Anarchism. London, HarperCollins. ISBN 978-0-00-217855-6. Marshall, Peter, 1993. Demanding the Impossible, A History of Anarchism. Oakland, California, PM Press. ISBN 978-1-60486-064-1. Mattern, Mark, 2019. Anarchism and Art. In Levy, Carl, Adams, Matthew S. eds. The Palgrave Handbook of Anarchism. Springer Publishing. Pages 589 to 602. ISBN 978-3-319-75620-2. Maine, Alan James, 1999. From Politics Past to Politics Future, an integrated analysis of current and emergent paradigms. Greenwood Publishing Group. ISBN 978-0-275-96151-0. Retrieved September 20, 2010. McLaughlin, Paul, November 28, 2007. Anarchism and Authority, A Philosophical Introduction to Classical Anarchism. Aldershot, Ashgate. ISBN 978-0-7546-6196-2. Moreland, Dave, 2004. Anti-Capitalism and Post-Structuralist Anarchism. In Jonathan Pourkis, James Bowen, eds. Changing Anarchism, Anarchist Theory and Practice in a Global Age. Manchester University Press. Pages 23 to 38. ISBN 978-0-7190-6694-8. Meltzer, Albert, January 1, 2000. Anarchism, Arguments for and Against. AK Press. ISBN 978-1-8731776-57-3. Morris, Brian, January 1993. Bakunin, The Philosophy of Freedom. Black Rose Books. ISBN 978-1-895431-66-7. Morris, Brian, 2015. Anthropology, Ecology, and Anarchism, a Brian Morris Reader. Marshall, Peter, Illustrated ed. Oakland, PM Press. ISBN 978-1-60486-093-1. Morris, Christopher W. 2002. An Essay on the Modern State. Cambridge University Press. ISBN 978-0-521-52407-0. Moynihan, Colin, 2007. Book Fair Unites Anarchists. In Spirit, Anyway. The New York Times, April 16. Moya, Jose C., 2015. Transference, Culture, and Critique the Circulation of Anarchist Ideas and Practices. In Geoffroy de Lafourcade, ed. In Defiance of Boundaries, Anarchism in Latin American History. Kerwin R. Schaefer. University Press of Florida. ISBN 978-0-8130-5138-3. Nesser, Peter, 2012. Research Note, Single Actor Terrorism, Scope, Characteristics, and Explanations. Perspectives on Terrorism. 6, 661-73. Jaster 26296894. Netalo, Max, 1996. A Short History of Anarchism. Freedom Press. ISBN 978-0-900384-89-9. Newman, Michael, 2005. Socialism, A Very Short Introduction. Oxford, Oxford University Press. ISBN 978-0-19-280431-0. Newman, Saul, 2010. The Politics of Post-Anarchism. Edinburgh University Press. ISBN 978-0-74863495-8. Nicholas, Lucy, 2019. Gender and Sexuality. In Levy, Carl, Adams, Matthew S. eds. The Palgrave Handbook of Anarchism. Springer. ISBN 978-3-319-75620-2. Norris, Jesse J. 2020. Idiosyncratic Terrorism, Disaggregating an Under-Theorized Concept. Perspectives on Terrorism. 14, 3. ISSN 2334-3745. Jaster 269182996S. Nomad, Max, 1966. The Anarchist Tradition. In Drakovich, Milorad M. N. Revolutionary International 1864-1943. Stanford University Press. P88. ISBN 978-0-8047-0293-5. Osgood, Herbert L. March 1889. Scientific Anarchism. Political Science Quarterly. The Academy of Political Science. 4, 11-36 doi 10.2307/21394424. Jaster 213-9424. Otero, Carlos Peregrin, 1994. Noam Chomsky, Critical Assessments. 2-3. London, Routledge. ISBN 978-0-415010-05-4. Perry, Richard, 1987. The Bonnot Gang. Rebel Press. ISBN 978-0-946061-04-4. Perlin, Terry M. 1979. Contemporary Anarchism. Transaction Publishers. ISBN 978-1-4128-2033-2. Pernicon, Nunzio, 2009. Italian Anarchism, 1864-1892. Princeton University Press. ISBN 978-0-691-63268-1. Peterson, Stephen A. 1987. Moral Development and Critiques of Anarchism. Journal of Libertarian Studies. Auburn, Alabama, Mises Institute. 8, 237-245. Pearson, Christopher, 2013. Just Property, Enlightenment, Revolution, and History. Oxford University Press. ISBN 978-0-19-967329-2. Ramnath, Maya, 2019. Non-Western Anarchisms and Post-Colonialism. In Levy, Carl, Adams, Matthew S. eds. The Palgrave Handbook of Anarchism. Springer. ISBN 978-3-319-75620-2. Robe, Chris, 2017. Breaking the Spell, A History of Anarchist Filmmakers, Videotape Guerrillas, and Digital Ninjas. PM Press. ISBN 978-1-629-63233-9. Rogers, Tristan J. 2020. The Authority of Virtue, Institutions and Character in the Good Society. London, Routledge. ISBN 978-1-000-22264-7. Rupert, Mark, 2006. Globalization and International Political Economy. Lanham, Rowman and Littlefield Publishers. ISBN 978-7425-2943-4. Riley, Peter, 2019. Individualism. In Levy, Carl, Adams, Matthew S. eds. The Palgrave Handbook of Anarchism. Springer Publishing. Pages 225 to 236. ISBN 978-3-319-75620-2. Shannon, Derek, 2019. Anti-capitalism and libertarian political economy. In Levy, Carl, Adams, Matthew S. eds. The Palgrave Handbook of Anarchism. Springer Publishing. Pages 91 to 106. ISBN 978-3-319-75620-2. Skurda, Alexander, 2002. Facing the Enemy, A History of Anarchist Organization from Proudhon to May 1968. AK Press. ISBN 978-1-902593-19-7. Sylvan, Richard, 2007. Anarchism. In Robert E. Gooden, Philip Pettit, Thomas Pocky, eds. A Companion to Contemporary Political Philosophy. Blackwell Companions to Philosophy. 5, 2nd ed. Blackwell Publishing. ISBN 978-1-40513653-2. Suissa, Judith, 2019. Anarchist Education. In Levy, Carl, Adams, Matthew S. eds. The Palgrave Handbook of Anarchism. Springer Publishing. ISBN 978-3-319-75620-2. Thomas, Paul, 1985. Karl Marx and the Anarchists. London, Routledge and Keegan Paul. ISBN 978-0-7102-0685-5. Tucker, Robert C., ed. 1978. The Marx-Engels Reader, 2nd ed. New York, W. W. Norton and Company. ISBN 0-393-05684-8. OCLC 341-5145. Turcato, W. Day, 2019. Anarchist Communism. In Levy, Carl, Adams, Matthew S. eds. The Palgrave Handbook of Anarchism. Springer Publishing. ISBN 978-3-319-75620-2. Van der Waal, Lucien, 2019. Syndicalism. In Levy, Carl, Adams, Matthew S. eds. The Palgrave Handbook of Anarchism. Springer Publishing. Pages 249 to 264. ISBN 978-3-319-75620-2. Ward, Colin, 1973. The Role of the State. Education Without Schools, 39 to 48. Ward, Colin, 2004. Anarchism, A Very Short Introduction. Oxford, Oxford University Press. ISBN 978-0-19-280477-8. Walder, Nicholas, 2002. About Anarchism. London, Freedom Press. ISBN 978-0-900384-90-5. Wendt, Fabian, 2020. Against Philosophical Anarchism. Law and Philosophy. 39, 527 to 544 doi 10.1007/S10982-020-09377-4. Wilbur, Sean, 2019. Mutualism. In Levy, Carl, Adams, Matthew S. eds. The Palgrave Handbook of Anarchism. Springer Publishing. ISBN 978-3-319-75620-2. Williams, Dana M. 2015. Black Panther Radical Factionalization and the Development of Black Anarchism. Journal of Black Studies. Thousand Oaks, Sage Publishing. 46, 7678 to 703 doi 10.1177/0021934715593053053. Jaster 24572914. S2 Sid 145663405. Williams, Dana M. 2018. Contemporary Anarchist and Anarchistic Movements. Sociology Compass. Wiley. 12, 6E12582 doi 10.1111/SOC 4.12582. ISSN 1751-9020. Williams, Dana M. 2019. Tactics, Conceptions of Social Change, Revolution, and Anarchist Organization. In Levy, Carl, Adams, Matthew S. eds. The Palgrave Handbook of Anarchism. Springer Publishing. ISBN 978-3-319-75620-2. Williams, Leonard, 2010. Hakim Bey and Ontological Anarchism. Journal for the Study of Radicalism. East Lansing, Michigan State University Press. 4, 109-137 doi 10.1353/JSR.2010.0009. Jaster 41887660. S2 Sid 143304524. Tertiary sources. Coutinho, Steve, March 3, 2016. Zhuangzi. Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy. Archived from the original on March 3, 2016. Retrieved March 5, 2019. DeGeorge, Richard T. 2005. Ted Hond Eric, ed. The Oxford Companion to Philosophy. Oxford University Press. ISBN 978-0-19-926479-7. Viella, Andrew, 2017. Anarchism. Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. Metaphysics Research Lab, Stanford University. Miller, Martin A., Derlich, Aram, Rosemont, Franklin, Augustine, Adam, Duignan, Brian, Lita, Gloria, 2019. Anarchism in the Arts. Encyclopedia Britannica. Morris, Andrew, 2008. Anarcho-Capitalism. In Hamoy, Ronald, ed. The Encyclopedia of Libertarianism. Sage, Cato Institute. Pages 13 to 14. doi 10.4135/9781412965811.na. ISBN 978-1-4129-6580-4. OCLC 1919248553. McLean, Ian, Macmillan, Alastair, 2003. The Concise Oxford Dictionary of Politics. Oxford University Press. ISBN 978-0-19-280276-7. Definition of Anarchism. Merriam-Webster. 2019. Retrieved February 28, 2019. Miller, David, August 26, 1991. The Blackwell Encyclopedia of Political Thought. Wiley. ISBN 978-0-631-17944-3. Ostergaard, Jeffrey, 2003. Anarchism. In Outwade, William, ed. The Blackwell Dictionary of Modern Social Thought, 2nd ed. Malden, Massachusetts, Blackwell Publishing. ISBN 978-0-631-22164-7. OCLC 49704935. Anarchy. Oxford English Dictionary, 3rd ed. Oxford University Press. September 2005. Further reading. Barclay, Harold B. 1990. People Without Government, An Anthropology of Anarchy. Khan and Averill. ISBN 978-0-9393006-09-1. Edmundson, William A. 2007. Three Anarchical Fallacies, An Essay on Political Authority. Cambridge University Press. ISBN 978-0-521-03751-8. Criticism of Philosophical Anarchism. Harper, Clifford, 1987. Anarchy, A Graphic Guide. Camden Press. ISBN 978-0-9484991-22-1. Humer, Michael, 2012. The Problem of Political Authority, An Examination of the Right to Coerce and the Duty to Obey. London, Palgrave Macmillan. ISBN 978-1-137-28164-7. A Defense of Philosophical Anarchism, stating that both kinds of anarchism, i.e. philosophical and political anarchism, are philosophical and political claims. p. 137. L. E. Ginn, Ursula K. 2009. The Dispossessed. HarperCollins. Anarchistic popular fiction novel. Kinna, Ruth, 2005. Anarchism, A Beginner's Guide. One World. ISBN 978-1-85168-370-3. Sartwell, Crispin, 2008. Against the State, An Introduction to Anarchist Political Theory. SUNY Press. ISBN 978-0-7914-7447-1. Scott, James C. 2012. Two Cheers for Anarchism, 6 Easy Pieces on Autonomy, Dignity, and Meaningful Work and Play. Princeton, New Jersey, Princeton University Press. ISBN 978-0-691-15529-6. Wool, Robert Paul, 1998. In Defense of Anarchism. University of California Press. ISBN 978-0-520-21573-3. An Argument for Philosophical Anarchism. Woodcock, George, January 1962. Anarchism in Spain. History Today. 12, 122-32. Retrieved October 14, 2020. External links. Anarchism. At Wikipedia's sister projects. Definitions from Wiktionary. Media from Wikimedia Commons. Quotations from Wikiquote. Texts from Wikisource. Textbooks from Wikibooks. Data from Wikidata. Anarchy Archives. Anarchy Archives is an online research center on the history and theory of anarchism.